Hello, everyone. My name is Julie.
And I'm Vanessa, and welcome to No
No
Filters,
filters,
No
no
Fears
fears
podcast.
podcast.
And we're also going to say what the elephant is, because we'd also have forgotten to rate the episodes. So since
Elephant.
we haven't done it in a while, maybe people have forgotten what it means. And our ratings is the elephant in the room. So it's kind of, you explain this better, the trigger warnings.
Yeah, they're trigger warnings. So they
Yeah.
go based on levels. So like a level 1, it's not nothing serious. It's like talking about a pool day or something. Then like episode 2, elephant 2 will
Yeah.
be like what would we consider.
A 2 is like, okay. I don't know what a
For an
level 2 would be.
example.
Did we ever have a level 2?
Yes, we could
We
have.
have. I think it's like those more like fun episodes where it's like maybe questions or whatever to each other. Actually, no, we end up making those 3. But it's like the pachanga episodes, right? So the end of season episodes.
Right. Then
They're fun, but we touch on past things. So that's a little.
right, like episode. I keep saying episode. Elephant 3, and then 4 and 5. They just keep getting heavier and
Yeah.
heavier.
4
So
and 5, it's like the
yeah,
consent episode was a level 5 because it was a heavy topic that people might feel.
the elephant is so heavy. So yeah, so today's elephant is a. What are we talking about? Forgiveness.
I feel like it's a foe.
I think it's a 4 too. I
Yeah.
agree with you because forgiveness can be very obviously heavy for people because some people
And difficult.
it is
And
difficult.
we're going to be clear from the beginning. We are not therapists.
This we are definitely not.
These are our opinions based on our experience, observations,
Other
And we still
experiences.
go through our things of forgiving ourselves.
That's the biggest one. Sometimes you gotta forgive yourself.
Yeah. There's forgiving someone else, forgiving and sometimes it's forgiving a situation. I feel like this happened. Kind of gotta let it go, forgive, and move on, and forgiving yourself. And of course, we cannot go on without a definition.
Well, the definition is the action or process of forgiving or being forgiven. Very simple, straight to the point.
What does forgiveness mean to you? And that applies to everybody in the chat as well. If you are just joining, welcome. Today we're talking about forgiveness. Put in the chat, what does forgiveness mean to you?
Making sure you're at peace already because you can't hold on to that. It's like being like resenting that person for so long. So it's being at peace. Like,
Right.
what about you?
For me, forgiveness is, yes, being at peace, but it's also honoring. It's my way of honoring my higher self, the better part of myself that I want to achieve. So every time I'm able to work through something and forgive someone, a situation, or forgive myself, I feel like I'm getting closer to being the person that I hope to be for myself and for those around me.
Right.
But that's hard. That's hard. What are the things that are hardest to forgive, do you think?
Well, I guess if we put in a broader spectrum, I guess something when someone's in relationships, like the sneaking around, the cheating, the lying, I guess. I don't know, family dynamic, I guess, when maybe when they don't support you in the heaviest things that you need help with,
Right.
And then with friendship, I'm gonna go with the whole lying thing and the whole not being supportive type of thing and like letting you down in a way. So
Okay.
certain little things in those aspects.
Sure. Releasing a negative emotion attached to something or someone, therefore allowing myself to heal and move on. That is a beautiful explanation of what forgiveness means to you. if we do it like that, because I agree, depending on the relationship dynamic and what the forgiving is, so if it's a family situation, a lot of those family things, and we don't have to be a therapist to know this. Those of us who've had therapy or have therapists, or just logically, that a lot of things that you carry on into your romantic relationships, your friendships, come a lot from things that you haven't been able to kind of heal from or cope with or forgive from your childhood
Right.
and things like that.
Yeah. So you can.
Um,
Mhm.
yeah. And so it keeps moving. So the same thing happens. And in a relationship, you can't forgive that. Then your next relationship somehow ends up paying for things of like the past. So it's a funny little cycle. And the only one who can kind of break it and do that healing for yourself, the other person figuring that out, is you.
I saw something on Instagram that said, if you don't heal from this like relationship, it will be the same shit, just different face. It will be a different relationship, just the same thing being carried. And I
Ding,
was
ding,
like,
ding, ding, ding.
exactly. And hello, this is why you heal from that. Go through your luggage or your baggage, go through it, sort it
Child,
out,
start unpacking, unpacking.
unpack, and then hopefully by the end you're leaving with a little tiny backpack and you carry it with you. And here you go. Here's my backpack. Sort through that. This is, I mean, I know it's unrealistic. Not everybody has that.
Therapist Helen.
Oh, hi. I know not everybody has that, but you could try your damn hardest to work through that. If you
Yeah,
truly care for yourself, if you want to give that to yourself, you
yeah.
know?
But it's definitely also a balance.
Of course.
Forgiveness is a balance because you can also quote unquote forgive and it be a detriment to yourself.
Mm.
You posted something today that is brilliant. Forgiveness does not mean, and I got feelings and opinions about this, and we know I do. So we finna get into it.
There's more people trolling in. Come on, people.
Come
Come
on
in.
in, babies. Come on in. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Forgiveness Talk.
And
Please share with us what
you're
forgiveness means to you, or what's hardest for you, that you find hardest for you to forgive. Um, I I'm one of those forgivers to a fault, but definitely with age, you learn that it's a balance. And what you posted today was something that we found for the episode. And we were like, this is life. This is great. Right? You can forgive without having to, what was it? Re-engage,
to
reconnect,
reconnect. Yeah, reconnect.
reconnect. Now, for the most part, um, I I like to be able to reconnect because if I'm choosing to go down the path of forgiveness, it's because I'm honoring all of the things that was with that individual, right? Whether it's familial, romantic partnership, friends. We know, no, the relationship bit. Y'all know where I stand on that. So whatever the relationship dynamic is, you're honoring what that has been, right? Now from then on, you choose what is healthy for you
Right.
and how you can live with your forgiveness, whether it's in reconnecting, mama need a minute, or in not and not reconnecting at all and like saying thank you for being this chapter. I forgive, but yeah, that's all I can do. I've not had to do that as of yet. Have you
I
had to leave
actually,
that?
well, to go back to what you said, even though you could forgive someone, not necessarily you have to reconnect with them. Sometimes you just do it and not necessarily have to, because that is a closed chapter already, but you needed to
Yeah.
get that out of your chest. So,
Yeah.
now going to your other question, yes, I actually have to make the hardest decision. Now, it wasn't even a decision, it was just like a thought in my mind that came, not even a thought, it was a feeling. I woke up literally one day out of the blue and I was like, it's time. Like it just came. So I reached out to them. I'm like, I have to tell you something important in person. I saw them, I forgave them. It was hard because obviously you see them again, and it's like all this shit
Everything
that,
else hits you again.
and then at that moment it's like I have to forgive them, but I don't need reconnection. I just need to be like, I have to let you officially go. And that's
Yeah.
what happened. And I forgave them. And like
And
I
it's
said,
healing for that person too.
hmm?
It's healing for that person too, if they're willing to accept it as forgiveness and not as like, I don't need you to forgive me. Cause then I'm like, listen.
Well, well, that's another thing. For them, it was like they wanted a reconnection, but I'm like, no se puede.
Yeah.
That's not how it works for me. I'm done. I can't. And it was because of the quote, that particular quote that you just sent out of nowhere, and I was like, shit. You don't
But
have to
what would change it? Because you see, for me, how I would gauge forgiveness, right? It's there's a quote from the Little Prince about how like you need the rain to appreciate the flowers and all of these things. We are all going to hurt each other at some point. It's what you do after the hurt, right? So on the other side of forgiveness is the person who caused the hurt, right?
right.
Caused that discord. So, and that person needs to apologize or acknowledge and take accountability for their part, their role in this situation, right? And, you know, it's a journey to want to forgive and all of that business, but it's also a journey to apologize. You can't just say, I'm sorry, and then do the same shit,
Exactly. Like, what's the whole point?
right? But then if you're going to choose the path of like forgiveness, it can't, uh, we're all guilty of this, guilty as sin of like sacando el trapito sucio, right?
Right.
Of like, yeah, I forgive you. But when something comes around, you gonna toss it. Like if you forgave it, you forgave it. We're gonna move on. But we're human. So our
Right, right.
minds and our hearts are like, yeah, but you did this.
Right, you bring the past back, and then obviously, like you said, we are human, pero algunas veces, like sometimes you're like, okay, remember you forgive, and honestly, it came from the heart, like true, honest forgiveness, like I forgave them, but then you see their fucking shitty ass patterns again, and you're like, it's like you
Yeah.
haven't like you haven't learned. You said you're sorry, you apologize, but you haven't grown out of those patterns. You don't
But
recognize it on yourself.
and this is where I love that all our episodes go
Right, me too.
right? Because it makes me think of a couple of things. It makes me think of the cycle of change, right?
Hmm.
It's very similar, right? In order for you to forgive, you have to change your mind about how you feel about that situation,
Right.
right? So by the time you get to okay, and now you're here, maintenance, right?
Right. Exactly.
Remembering all the work that you went through to feel that, right? But it's the same thing on the other side. So if it's one of those forgivenesses where you've moved on the chapter, there's no reconnection, yeah, and it's your job to kind of remember to not impose that on others around you or others in your future.
Right.
And I'm saying this, but we all know it's easier said than done.
Oh no. Yeah.
And then there's the other side where, okay, you are choosing, because I'm always, because I'm, I'm a dreamer, I'm a lover, I'm an idealist. I want for the resolve, for the progression, for the resolution, right? So I would, if it's with the idea of, reconnecting, whether whatever that may look like, then that other person also has to go through that cycle of change and and when you get to that point, get to maintenance. Like
Right.
you have to change the action that that caused pain, not just, or like understand that at least in that dynamic, if you really care about that person, you have to acknowledge how a certain action or certain words are
Right.
going to continue to affect them. And if you're willing to make that change, then that's a real apology. If not, then you need to Bye.
Right, you
Because
need
you're going to
something.
continuously going to cause that person pain.
La misma cosa, exactly. You need to go heal yourself. Go take as much time as you need, but realize that there's something really needing to be changed in you. Like you have to do it for yourself at least, you
Yeah.
know? Because
And
si no,
correct. Yeah. Oh, say that again. Say it for the people in the back.
I was like, wait, yeah, no,
You do it for yourself.
you
I
have to do
mean,
it for yourself. Remember, you
oh,
do come first.
on the other side of it, it's like anybody who forgives. Oh, Lord, what you doing there, Tier? What are you doing? It's,
I know.
um, you want to know that your forgiveness, that work, and all that hurt and that pain and the talking and the fighting with yourself, with the person, with the world, that it wasn't in vain,
Claro.
right? And I can acknowledge where I've maybe expected too much of myself in forgiving time and time again, right? And then at that point you have to hold yourself accountable of like, am I really having difficulty forgiving the person, or am I having difficulty forgiving myself for not setting the boundary, for not,
Allowing it to happen.
right? For not saying, okay, because yes, forgiveness is unconditional to a point.
Right.
The condition is always like, but don't do it again.
And that's it. You know, respect boundary. That's it. That's just one we're
And
asking.
if you see, I feel like if you see attempts to reconcile, that should be taken into consideration. How do you feel about that?
What, reconciliation?
Yeah.
Or you mean like baby steps? Well, like I said, to me it depends on the relationship. Like this particular one, I didn't want to reconnect, no reconciliation, none of that. But I have some that I have, they actually forgiven me and I accepted obviously and apologized, but have made the effort to obviously be better. So in depending on the situation, yes, why not? You know, like old friendships. Okay, we fucked up. I get it. You know, we weren't good for each other. Like that friendship wasn't good. We tried to be friends. It failed twice. We tried.
Yeah.
Now we know that for a fact. It's just that we are
You
not
can have love for
compatible.
that person, but you can have love for them from far away.
Right, exactly. So it's not gonna work out. So we try, but yeah, I do believe, depending on the situation, reconciliation, perfect. If you both want to do it, let's go.
Yeah. I mean, I can think the example that I think of, and I have a very clear one. I have a ton of examples that I could use when it comes to forgiveness, and times where I feel really that it makes you feel foolish and it makes you feel down on yourself. And then you go into that territory of shame versus guilt, right?
Right.
Um, but for me, I think of my father. I think of my dad. My dad's a good dude, but there's a lot of behaviors and patterns that even after the apology, right, and the attempts to reconcile or to better, falls into the same thing. Um, Out of habit, out of not knowing,
Right.
whatever the case, maybe it still causes me pain. It still gives me the feels, and it still gives me a reason to have to forgive certain things that cause me distress, right? Um, but that's different. That's my dad, you know. When you get into I don't know, it's complicated. Isn't it complicated? Forgiveness is complicated.
I mean, you sound like you're more forgiving than I am because I don't even think about it. I'm like, you're just gone. Te jodiste. Like I don't
But
even
use I
entertain.
no, I can't do it. I
I
can't do
don't
it.
even entertain that because you fucked it up. And I know I'm not perfect, but if we both were talking and trying to do something for the relationship and you still like doing your shit, you are gone. Like I'm not
I'm
gonna.
gonna be really honest. My mama like my mom is like that. And I understand it, and I've learned to really respect that stance because before I was like, ay, pero que esto, que lo otro. And I'm like, it's real. And honestly, there's a lot of validity and a lot of I admire that stance to a point,
No.
because it's you give yourself your value, right? And that's something that I can really respect and admire. But at the same time, I'm like,
Para mí,
it
si no
depends. For me, depende de la situación, and it depends on the person and the relationship and what happened.
right,
You feel me?
exactly. Hi,
Oh,
Brian.
hi, Brian. What you say? What do you say? You read, Brian.
Forgiving is a big part of healing. However, there can be differences between forgiving the person and forgiving the act.
Ooh, Brian coming in with that fire. You've been away for a minute. You came back and you're like, I'm just gonna drop this nugget of gold. Thank you,
And
Brian.
I understand that that was the most difficult part about my first forgiveness, which was my first forgiveness in my entire life. The biggest one that held the most meaningful, words to me, forgiving them. It was the act
Right.
because it was like, are you serious? Because
Yeah.
you trusted them with everything, and
Mm.
obviously they fucked it up. Obviously, it was from both ends because obviously, like I said, I was imperfect, but still, like I wouldn't go that far to do, what they did. It's like, damn.
Yeah. And it's a very forgiveness, just like love, is a
Mhm.
choice.
Oh yeah, of course.
And you know, I think it's we 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 so quickly judge, and the bus here is Vanessa. When someone can't forgive a certain thing, and then when you sit back and you really assess the situation, you're like, damn, Daniel, they're loving themselves and not forgetting certain things. And then it makes you really assess some of the things you have forgiven by choice, but possibly um, putting in jeopardy your love for yourself, or your value. And we teach people how to care for us and love us, and in giving them permission to consistently just um ¿cuál es el dicho? Mejor pedir perdón que pedir permiso. It's better to ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission. Nobody needs to give you permission. You're a grown ass autonomous individual, right?
Hope to be
But
here.
don't do shit that you know is going to cause a ripple effect to other people that supposedly you care about, and then just be like, I'm just going to say I'm sorry and it'll be okay. It's going to come to the point where those people are going to ripple the hell away from you. And you're going to be one lonely ass individual figuring what the hell to do with your life. And that makes me, again, love my papa, but it makes me think of my dad.
Right.
And it makes me think of people like that, that with the best of intention and wanting to be themselves and what does makes them happy or whatever, they affect other people and they're just like, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And then the I'm sorry becomes the pattern. But the redemption part of it is never followed up.
But also it's up to us when we hear that one sorry. It's like, no, I don't accept it. Why are you sorry? Are you gonna do change your patterns? If we accept all their sorries and we're just gonna perpetuate the idea that it's okay for them to fuck up and just we'll take it
Yeah.
because we're compromising that. We're allowing that to happen.
Yeah. And I also, yeah, it comes with being an overthinker, right? So I've gotten better about saying I'm sorry.
Oh, you have. Trust
But
me,
the
since
overthinking is still a thing. Where my overthinkers at? Any other overthinkers out there in the world? Overthinkers. We need to start Overthinkers Anonymous. Because what happens? You start justifying, right?
right.
Or overthinking. Like I will think of why somebody does a certain thing. And yes, that can be wonderful. put yourself in the other person's shoes, kind of think of where they're coming from,
Yeah.
understand like, they wouldn't know to do this because of this upbringing, this, whatever. And there's only so much you can do that for someone before it's just like, nah, no, I'm giving you a free pass to be a douche.
All exactly.
Right? And I'm telling you that it's okay to be not so nice to me and that you don't have to hold yourself accountable for actions,
Accountability.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So I can understand that too. But I also am, and maybe you'll fight me on this. A person, an individual, is not any one particular error. There's so much more to that person.
No, no,
And
yeah.
if the attempt is made, right? Which is why, you know, a lot of people, oh, Libra, I'm a Libra too. It is a Libra trait. Um, which is why I've had a lot of people who are just like, oh, just write fulanito off, write your write your dad off, write you know, this friend, this lover, and I can't do it because it's personally not my thing. I've learned to value myself a little bit more in the sense that like I will poner a boundary like, no, don't tell me that you're sorry and you don't want to hurt me. If that were true, then you wouldn't because you know exactly what that takes. You're choosing to hurt me regardless of what it's going to do. Right? But at the same time, it's like, how do you cut that? The overthinking button.
Well, I overthink of different things. I don't overthink on that. To me, it's like, okay, back to what you were saying about writing people off. Off the bat, I'm gonna tell you what is right, what is wrong. There's a whole fucking list. There's a book. Read it. Now, because that's how
She
I
said
am.
there's a book. There's a book. Read it.
Because that's how I am. Off the bat, I'm gonna tell you what I don't like to be done, said, X, Y, and Z. Why? Because I don't like to play games. I don't like to just keep people on their toes for no fucking reason. But that doesn't mean that if you fuck up once, by accident, you did something that obviously you didn't know. I'm not gonna be like, oh, I understand because you didn't know. I'm gonna be understanding, and then we're gonna move on from that. But if you do it again, now I'm writing you off. I don't care because you didn't learn the first time. You didn't learn the first time. What happened the first time? Se te fue.
Okay. But here's where Peter. Hi, Peter. Welcome. And yes, I understand
and
what you're saying, and I don't entirely disagree because there's the bit of like self-respect, and I get you, but at the same time, and I just like we've talked about, it depends on dynamic. It
right.
depends on the situation. We did stop the show for Peter. Damn it. um, I think those kinds of things, the reasons we do certain actions or we think certain actions are okay to do. I'm measuring my words because I'm like, am I justifying? Child, I'm trying to catch myself.
We
But
both learned
I really,
one.
but I really believe this. I really believe this, and maybe I don't have the right words to explain it, and it's gonna sound like a justification. But the reality is that the reason we do certain actions, and it's because we've been able to get away with it, or we've been forgiven in the past. So it just becomes a part of how we act.
Right.
Now, if with a particular person they want us to be different about that thing with them and in that dynamic, then it requires a little patience on both sides, because just as long as it took them to learn that pattern, it's going to take them a little bit to be like, oh, this does not float with
This
this
person.
person.
I agree with that. Because they might not think it's wrong until they meet somebody, and it is wrong to them.
Right. So that's why I agree. But like, it's like by time 20, it's like, what did you miss? Were you not taking notes? What happened to maintenance? I do understand that. I do understand that.
I don't have patience, man. Para mierdas like that, I don't have. Like, it's like if you want to grow together with the person, if you want to, you pay attention to them, you pay attention to the love languages, their details, you care, you want to be there, you cultivate, you know. But if you just if you're just there for like a one-time thing, let the other person know so they don't invest, and then guess what, we move on.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
it. And I'm not gonna be mad at you. I'm not, but you thinking that there's somewhere or whatever, I can't forgive that action.
Right. And now we're talking about forgiveness on the scale of knowing someone, right?
Right,
Right.
right.
So those deeper seated relationships,
Correct.
seated
See,
English. Um, but there's other kinds of forgiveness, right? There's forgiveness for the person who cut you off in traffic, which is really annoying.
see, to me, the word forgiveness holds so much power than just. To me, that's not forgiving somebody. That's just something that happened, and it's like
Right.
I brushed it off. Like it doesn't matter to
But
me.
we've all seen those stories. Oh, and this might make me cry because y'all, I'm gonna be 100. I'm in all of my feels for like the last 2 months, but specifically the last like week or two, um, heavy in them. Uh, but we've all seen those stories of forgiveness where it's like a drunk driver
Oh, I know which one.
killed someone's little kid, or somebody accidentally took a stop sign, like they didn't see, an accident, right? And even
Yeah,
if it's not an accident, I've seen stories of it not being an accident. The person was drunk. Like, what the hell are you doing behind a wheel if you are intoxicated in any fucking way?
right.
Okay. And someone is harmed, especially death. And the person goes to court, the family of the person who passed, and they want to see justice done, but they forgive that person. And you see this change. And this is what I feel Brené Brown is talking about with the
Mhm.
shame versus guilt.
Right.
They know they are guilty. They know they did a bad thing, but they received something so important. And it reminded them that they are not just that one act and that they can be better despite that.
That. Mhm.
It gives them room to be better. It doesn't shut them down, right?
Right,
To be
right.
like, well, that's it. Well, I'm just a piece of shit. Well, screw it. If I'm a piece of shit, I'm just gonna go to jail. I'm gonna shank people. You know what I mean?
Like they have no room for growth, which they do.
Right. And then, of course, there's people that are still able to do that regardless of whether they receive the forgiveness or not. But those stories really
Right.
touch me because, Doma, to be a parent and lose your child and forgive the person who took that from you, that takes real love. That takes a whole lot of something. A whole lot of something that I don't know if I got.
And this weekend I was watching a crime show, and this lady deliberately killed her boyfriend at the time, and his parents forgave the woman, became friends with her, went to see her in jail, became friends, and started like doing like music with her. They forgave her, pero del corazón. And I'm sitting there like, she just killed your son. And then they were talking about, like you just said, about, that's not the only thing that they are. Like they're more than that. Like, yeah, it happened, fucking blows, it sucks, it's a fucking shitty whatever, but there's room to be a better person, to
Right. And
get
but
out.
even that's difficult. And that takes
I was
like I
watching
said, it takes a lot of something.
Brian, I don't have that type of forgiveness. Eso sí que that's a whole different fucking level. I
Yeah.
was watching it and I was like, are you serious? Like I was baffled. I didn't understand their mindset of why they were the why is the why. Like why would you do that? Like, do you feel better? Do you feel at peace? Like, like I had questions. I had lots of questions for that.
Um, there's a saying that I repeat to myself every once in a while. You're gonna laugh from where it's from. Janet Jackson says this
Okay.
in one of her albums. And in reality, you can apply it to a lot of things. And I have at different moments in my life where I feel that this saying applies. I've applied it. It can apply to a relationship when you're, all about it, but it can also apply to this inability, like when you find yourself unable to forgive or to put in the work to forgive so that you can be at peace. So you're not in that constant or like seething whenever that thing comes up, right? And it's how empty of me to be so full of you. And I'm not saying anybody's empty. Yeah, we very full people. We're very complete people. But how, there's something, right? To let that person and that act and that thing consume you. That's why you forgive for yourself. And then from there on, what you do, like whether you reconnect or don't reconnect, move on or whatever, it it's still your journey.
Right.
But you take back your power and you make it about you and what that forgiveness does for you, I feel. And it helps you heal, not just that moment, but why that thing hurt you. That thing hurt you from something even before.
Maybe.
You know what I mean? Because if not, that moment wouldn't have mattered. To some
Right.
people, que be, and this is, I don't know. I'm trying to think of an example. To some, well, you use the infidelity thing, right?
Right.
I had a friend who forgave her husband's infidelity. Okay. And there was the consideration of the children and the this and the that, but forgave the infidelity and chose never to bring it up and grew from a better place. There's people that just can't do it, but for her, it helped her grow and helped her invest in her relationship in a different way, and she chose to give it that opportunity. And there's people that don't want to. Amen. You don't got to.
Right.
You don't have to, but it's because of what infidelity meant to her. It meant something different to her than it would have meant to, like, that happened to somebody, another friend of mine. And let me tell you, she was not about that life. She took the house and the kids and all the things. You know what I mean?
Just like what Brian is saying, you cannot control what other people do, but we can control how we let their actions affect us.
Absolutely.
Remember how I was telling you how my realization about this forgiveness came from the fact that, yes, they hurt me. They hurt me once, but they're not hurting me now.
Yeah.
So I shouldn't be holding on to that. I shouldn't. Why? It's like drowning myself in a cup, but por nada, because it's not happening now at this very moment. I'm holding on to this old feeling that has nothing to do with my current life. And that what made me say, yeah, it's tiempo. We gotta do it.
Yeah. I don't know if there's a word for this, because I know that I have forgiven certain things, but then there is a word. Peter said it before: forgiving the person versus forgiving the act or a situation. Right? You still remember the pain that caused, and it's still very much in you. I don't know if that's forgiveness, right? The pain sits in you for a different reason. I don't know what that's called. Like I said, I'm not a therapist, so I wouldn't know. Therapist Helen, if there's a word for that, please let me know. But if I were to use like a personal example, I can forgive everything that happened with my ex, right? And know that they are an amazing person and that we're still friends. And oh, Brian said that. Sorry, Brian, I meant you. Thank you, Peter.
I said it. No, don't take credit, Peter.
and I acknowledge who they are as a person to me now. But when I go back and think of that time and how I felt, it doesn't tear me apart unless I'm in a space, right?
Think
But it's a remembrance of something that it's one of those again,
yeah, like it's things so little, like
again,
como que tú te recuerdas de ese como un sabor malo en la boca, and
right?
you're like, I don't
And
like that. But,
I don't associate it to that person, right?
pero, yeah, yeah,
Right.
the act.
So I forgave and I forgave the act. And I was happy to know that I was right about that they were acting that way because of a particular reason. Sometimes you don't get that. I was very fortunate to get that kind of closure and understanding. But it's difficult because you can forgive, but that memory is still gonna fucking haunt you sometimes and hurt. That whole forgive and forget. I don't know the forget part. The forget, it lingers.
Right.
I don't,
You're in a new situation and you see that thing happening again, and you're like,
yeah, it leaves the fingerprint, which is why sometimes we'll impose the thought process on someone else that's doing something
right.
similar, right? Or like this starting to smell like, starting to look like, starting to feel like, or even if
So
that person isn't doing it, we just
oh,
make the assumption that I can't deal with. That's really difficult for me. And it's difficult for me to put myself in a loving space.
we're making the assumption part.
Being the one at the other end of the assumption,
Oh
right?
yeah, I got him. I'm not doing
No
anything.
pagando los platos sucios de otra persona.
Right, got it. Yeah.
You're dealing with, and we all know that we're going to deal with our friends, our family, our lovers, past experiences, and like we're going to show them different. But like when you're in that exchange of finding out those things and you're actively choosing, right, to not stir up those wounds, and they're still like acting suspect, like you're going to do it,
Yeah.
right? Like, I feel that also takes a little bit of forgiveness. I forgive you
I
for
know, but
pushing things on me that aren't mine. But I
yeah,
invite you to think, like, to just give me that, like, give the opportunity to be
yeah.
proven different. Not wrong, because that's rough, right? But to be proven different from that experience. Because sometimes we don't allow it, right? We
Especially
also
when
have to allow for that to happen.
you're so used to something and something actually different comes along, you're like, nah, aquí hay algo que no me gusta. Hold on, I don't know. I'm not too sure about it. That's even the worst part.
Yeah, you
Brian
don't
says
have
you
to
don't have,
forget to forgive. I agree.
we all agree on that. Raise your hand if y'all do. Everybody's like, what? It's rough, man. But at the end of the day, guess what? I am happy with my decision of forgiving them. And I
Yeah.
go to sleep perfectly fine. I do not have to have contact with them. I do not need to see them. I don't want anything to do with them because
That's really
I
rough.
chose that. I chose that for myself because that's how I
Okay.
could handle it better for me to be like, just say, I know why I did it. Because I'm not trying to reconnect. If that was the other case that I did want, so I'm like, baby steps. Let's maybe say good morning every other whatever. Or,
Okay. Testing the waters and seeing.
pero, yeah, right. But because I don't want to reconnect, goodbye.
Right.
Sayonara.
I have adopted that to a point. I can't. I'm right. The writing someone off thing is still really difficult for me
Why?
because I think of all the things that person was. Now, if it far outweighs, if the hurt and if the consistency is more in the hurt than in the growth,
Mm,
then I don't write off like go fuck yourself. Oh, beep. I say thank you for your part in my life, and we're gonna lose touch a little bit. We're not gonna be so close. You don't
right.
no longer have access to that part of me, kind of thing. That
Makes
I can understand. But um but if there is an attempt to consistently better the hurt and the growth, right?
mm-hmm.
And the positives of what the person does for me emotionally and for me as a growing, then it's really difficult for me to write them off.
No, right, of
And if
course.
there's a long history, the longer the history, the more the roce, the harder it is. The roce means like the contact, the experience, right? That makes it even harder for me.
I know it's been 8 years since then, and
Wow.
in
And
total,
it's
it's now
still, yeah.
right. It's been 18 years in total. Like, how the fuck can you just sobre noche that that's not gonna happen? But it took me 8 years to forgive, and guess what? I'm happy. Happy I did it.
Yeah.
I could literally sit here and be like, se fue,
And
and
you
I'm
did it.
happy.
You did it. I feel like we give the person such a gift and such an opportunity when we forgive them to their face,
You can't text
or
this.
virtually or text, but when you make that contact,
Yeah,
right? You open that door for them to be like, okay, there is no reconnection. I don't have to do this to somebody else again, right? I don't have to live in that shame that I caused this kind of hurt, right? And the person who forgave can see that flourishing and or not see it. You know what I mean? And just move on. But we give each other a gift. I gave you the gift to be better. And I gave myself the gift of like,
peace.
I don't have to deal with this in my head all the times.
Yeah, just peace, man. Have you gotten those random like text messages out of nowhere? Be like, hey, just wanted to let you know that I forgive you for all the things that happened between us. Have you gotten any of those from throughout the years, like from an ex
No,
or a friend?
it's funny. I think the closest that I can say that I got, I make it a point that if someone tells me that something hurts them, I'm gonna try really hard not to do it. And if I do it, I'm gonna try really hard to make it better. I want to fix it. But I think the closest I've gotten is maybe my ex. And accepting my forgiveness, but also in saying, I forgive you too, because certain actions came out of things that put them on alert. Right.
Right, right,
So it allowed me to realize like, it's a back and forth. It's a thing, right? I'm accountable for parts of this. But for the most part, I find myself being the one texting those things. Like, I'm sorry I did this. When I find myself facing a mirror of like, damn, I do that to so and so. I need to apologize because I now recognize how shitty that is.
right. No, I've had several like random exes from like 5 years ago, whatever, 6 years ago. I mean, yeah, we ended the relationship, but then now they're coming to me saying, I forgive you, and X, Y, and Z, and now that we're like back into the whole social media, like we're friends or whatever. So it's just
That's
strange for
awesome.
right. And I was like, well, thank you for forgiving me because I know that I was not the best at that time. And then I had random friends too apologizing for the randomest fucking thing that they did in like high school. I'm like, I don't even remember the incident, but thank you for apologizing. I hope
This is
you
why
could
I love
sleep.
you. This is why I love you, Truby. Because no, because it takes also a particular kind of heart and
Right.
mind to not be like, forgive me for what? You were this and you did that. And what you did was way worse. I deserve the apology.
I literally, well, that particular friend, I had no clue what the fuck they were apologizing for. But I was like, if it makes you sleep better at night, I accept it. I didn't even know there was any
Clearly, they
beef.
were going through a thing where they
I
felt
know,
that
I
they
didn't even
needed
know
to
there was
let
any
something go.
problem. Like that was like so high school, literally. So I was like, okay, mama, I I accept your forgiveness. You feel better? We were sleeping, you're at peace. It's good. It's good. It's healing. It's whew, you know. But not everybody, like you said, not everybody can do that.
No, because automatically you want to hop right back into it. Garras out, claws out.
And
What you
and
mean?
pride gets in the way too. Pride gets in the way of people.
Oh, yeah.
You're like, that's another topic. No,
that
yeah.
is another topic. You want to know something? I've been that person that is like, what you mean you forgive me? Do shit. Right? And that's me being my proud ass self. But I would have to say more often than not, I'm not too prideful because I've not, I don't, forgiveness is one of the most powerful acts a person can experience on both ends, giving and receiving. Absolutely. I'm not, I don't think of myself as being very proud. And maybe that has more to do with like still finding that balance of my worth and value, right? And acknowledging that for myself. But I definitely like,
But
yeah,
that's
say, go ahead.
the thing is that most people don't even understand that they're being prideful. Like they don't understand the meaning of the definition of the feeling. They just think that they're like, no, why do I have to? I don't have to forgive them for shit. I don't have to do it. And they're
Yeah.
like, but it's not about that. It's the fact that you did something wrong, but you're not acknowledging that,
Yeah.
and you have to because you did it wrong.
If we only saw what being in that state of pride, right? And then that state of I don't want to forgive and I don't have to, like, why did I, blah, 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 right?
Right?
What it does to your heart rate, what it does to your health, to your mental health, your physical health, what it does to you.
Basic,
I think
yeah.
we'd be quicker to forgive maybe. I How do you feel about this?
Mm.
Because I'm one of those friends that I cannot see, like, I'm trying to get better at the listening part and the like not invalidating because I don't do it intentionally sometimes and sometimes it
Mm-hmm.
happens. But I'm one of those friends that I can't see you being the the part of yourself that you work so hard not to be and not tell you, hey, this isn't you. Right? I think we've talked about this before.
Yeah, I told you plenty of time to your face. I'm like, Vanessa, I don't know what's going on with you, pero
Yeah.
it's not
This is
happening.
not your best self. I feel like Jody. Hi.
Yeah, I saw she popped
Oh,
up.
child, I'm gonna cry now. Um, I feel like we are all in each other's lives, and the deeper, like the more there's a connection, and the roce, right?
Hmm.
Acknowledge that we're in each other's lives to like help lead us to be our better self. And if we see us being in our lowest vibration, right,
Right.
and that we're feeding those demons that keep us in a space of ego and pride and of like just things that make you not feel good for you. I love you. I see you. I don't want you to stay there
Exactly.
because what I love about you and see in you is what makes me want to be my better self too. So I'm going to hold you just as accountable as you've held me without even knowing it.
Right.
But that's
Well,
difficult to explain to someone without being getting, reactive.
well, like you just asked me, how do I feel about that? Well, I'm not gonna be your friend and be like, "Qué cara linda tú tienes," and you're doing something fucked up. I'm gonna tell you. Like that's the type of person I am. Like just like I'm expecting everybody that knows me to be like, "Chubi, what is going on with you? You could, bajarlo
And
un
there
poquito."
there's a fine line between judgment and observation.
Oh yeah, of course. I literally just wrote that in my notebook. Literally, I'm not even kidding you. I
Because
literally said no judgment, just observation.
right, because I recognize I have sometimes difficulty in phrasing shit, and it'll come out exactly how it is in my head. And I
Yeah,
would hope that people, right, we've talked about this, know that I'm coming from a place of love. Sometimes Chubi and I say things to each other, and like, Chubi, you're so sweet. We'll apologize. Hey, I'm sorry if that came off really dry. That's not what I'm like, I didn't even take it that way. We're in work mode, right? But the thing is, if you know the person that you're dealing with and you're automatically going to assume that they're coming at you to hurt you, then you might want to rethink being around that person. Why are they
exactly.
there to begin with? But if they're telling you something, it's not necessarily a judgment. It might be an observation, and it may not be a real observation. It might be a feeling. And then that's a conversation, right?
Yeah, but most people don't know how to take it that way. They're gonna feel attacked regardless. Some people are just like, yo no hice eso. I didn't do that. What do you mean? I was like, but I'm the type of person that when I am coming up like the other time, remember that you were like, I see you a little bit like, estás en el
Snippy.
punto, like what's going on? I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I literally no, ni sabía, like I didn't know. But you see, you talk to me about it, and be like, I don't know what's wrong with you, but bye. Like, like, okay, you talk to me. You let me know.
Right.
And I just told you
And
exactly
you didn't say, I'm not giving you attitude. That's all in your mind. You're projecting.
no.
Listen, if you would have told me that, I would have slapped you.
I would have been no, but that's not the type of person I am today. I would have been like,
Right.
like I said, I'm like, I'm sorry. I really didn't think I was coming off that way. Didn't really mean that because I was fine. I was happy. I don't know what's going on. But then again, the whole texting translation thing, that's where y'all gets lost. Or it was a voice note, I guess. That's even worse.
And sometimes it doesn't even need to lead to the moment of, hi, Cindy. It doesn't even have to get to the point of having to forgive, right? It doesn't have to get, oh, hello, I'm so glad you popped in. Let us know what forgiveness means to you if you want to. It can all be avoided, right? It'll take a minute. And therapist Helen taught me this lovely trick. It's called put a button on it. Put a button in. We've talked about this before in other episodes. The button is a magical button. It doesn't mean you prolong the situation for 50,000 years because one side or the other is going to feel like they don't matter, right? Or that this doesn't hold weight, right? But the button is important because you come back as the person who wants to progress and grow and fix it, if that's what you're trying to do. And then you don't have to forgive that hurt or that action. You've dealt with it.
Right.
You've given it its value, right? I think I was using my dad as the example before. The day I was like 13 and I sat my papa down y lo puse como un zapato. Okay, like I talked to him for 3 hours straight of every pain. And it was very much from a place of love because if I don't love you, it wouldn't hurt me so much.
Right.
I wouldn't want you to meet me where I'm at. I wouldn't want you to do different. I wouldn't want you in my life. Right?
Interesting, yeah.
So I'm absolutely coming from a place of love and wanting to find that balance with you. Or coming from a place of love and wanting to like leave on a place that we know we did, we did our thing. Right. But my dad did the best that he could with that information. You know what I mean? And coming from a 13-year-old using a bunch of bad words and you did this and this and this, and it all fed into his own experience with his father. And then it helped me understand him better and where I needed to be a little bit patient.
Right.
Because that's the thing. When we're hurt, we don't think of the other person's hurt or where they're coming from.
Yeah, like why they're acting that way. Yeah.
Right. We want our immediate gratification of make me feel better now. And I am that person. I want to deal with shit at that moment. I'm trying to learn where I'm like, okay, I'm going to give it a little air.
I mean, sometimes it depends on what the situation is. If it's a must talk about now, we have to talk about it. Pero si es una cosita, we can talk about it later. So it depends.
Yeah. But I think that kind of forgiveness to my father has trickled into the rest of my life. And maybe it's why I over forgive, because I feel like there is that, right?
Yeah.
Or not over forgiving, like that whole bit of not knowing the difference between forgive and reconnect and forgive and thank you for your part in my life, but I'm gonna keep going. Right? Sometimes I've allowed people to stay around longer than and this is gonna sound real harsh, but longer than they deserve.
It's true.
Because people prove, right? We prove to kind of each other in a way how we're deserving of each other's energy because we respect it.
Right.
And if someone's consistently disrespecting you
And you're
and not acknowledging and not, nobody's responsible to fix your feels, right? You got to fix your own feels. Nobody's responsible for that. but there is a conversation, and if it was triggered by an action, then you can, remedy it by stating your intention, and it could help that other person do that very difficult work that they've got to do, you know and it benefits you because maybe it aids in that forgiveness of and how they treat you.
Hablando se entiende la gente, like you always say. We gotta communicate.
Did you just use one of my things?
Your reaction is hilarious. I love it.
That made me so happy.
But it's true. You have to talk, and you have to try to come to an understanding, and try to see what's going on. Because if you just let it continue, what are you solving?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I love what Cindy wrote. This is what we talked about before, right? That, you can forgive someone,
Exactly.
but it doesn't mean you're gonna. But also, it's like figuring out. I'm I also having difficulty forgiving myself for allowing this person access to me in that way of like, setting down those boundaries, like, whatever, right? So yeah. Oh, I love it.
Once you forgive yourself, everything else should come easy, but obviously it's not. It's
It
easier said
doesn't.
than done. Pero es mejor así, like when you truly forgive yourself and you're like, I know what I did, and I know I did it at the time because it was what I thought was right.
It's just like everything in life. It's a choice,
Right. It
right?
is.
And we learn from those choices. We don't always learn, but also I have some room for growth on this topic. I tend to forgive, but also cut people completely out of my life in order to protect myself. We talked about that too. Chubi's a cutter offer.
After one.
After one, but what? See, I'm not. But see, I think there's a happy medium between the Chubis and Cindy's, right? And the Vanessas. Not that either one is a negative thing.
Right.
They both have their value. And somewhere in the middle of that, Libra to the end, there's the balance. Right? And finding that balance is the motherfucker.
To me, the person, I mean, it's gonna sound wrong, but to me, the person doesn't hold any value of any sort. You just causing me fucking pain, and you bring drama to my surrounding. I don't need you in my life. I don't like that. So I am automatically gonna cut you off because I don't need you.
Right.
I don't want you. I don't need you. You don't serve no purpose.
Ay, qué fuerte.
To me, at least, in the aspect of friendship, if you just have drama following you, you have no room here. You don't. So that's how that's why I am a cutover. Like, goodbye.
But see, that's where I'm like, but why is that person like that? And it's not because, and I really assess this about myself because I know I tend to be the person who wants to fix and wants to, it's not because I want to fix the person, but I feel like we come into each other's lives for a reason. We come, and actually Cindy taught me this little phrase, and I love it. We come into each other's orbit for a reason, right? Because the thing is, no one's an island, right? There's people around us all the time, and we interact. Okay, so we come into each other's lives for a reason. So if you are not in the space to like help that person, that is totally valid, and you do what you need to do to protect yourself. Absolutely. But if there's something to be learned, if it's because you see yourself reflected, I've stuck around in situations where I see myself reflected in a person, and I've seen them grow beyond what they think that they just are, that drama, that this, that, and I've seen them become something so beautiful that they didn't even expect. And it's not because I did anything. That was their choice.
Right.
But I didn't allow them to become that one instance of their ugly, of their darkness, or of their bad moment. Do you understand what I'm saying?
No, I understand what you're saying, but to me, it's like you have a lot of healing to do, especially if it's a repeated person in my life, constantly being there, and you're still the same person you were 10 years ago. Where is your growth? You haven't healed. Misma mierda, same pattern. That's why I'm gonna cut you off. That's what I mean.
Okay, that I can understand. If you see years later a person who says, It's something I'm working on. It's definitely, but again, I say, but see, here's devil's advocate. It takes someone an amount of time to learn a pattern. And if nobody before has told him, hey, that's shitty, or hey, that hurts, or they say that hurts and they just walk away, but not that hurts. And you know what I mean? La conversación, there's no talking. That person won't change. It will be their pattern.
But that's the thing. What if
But
you
if
have
after a long time and that pattern doesn't change, then fuck you.
That's what I'm saying. Like they don't want to fix it. You can't help somebody who doesn't want to fix themselves or improve themselves. You can't. And guess what?
Yeah.
We don't have time for that. I don't have time to babysit you on something that it has been said to you time and time and again because you feel like there's nothing wrong with you. You are a toxic person. I mean, I forgive them for what they are and what they've done, pero de lejito.
Yeah,
What are you reading?
No, nothing. I'm really loving this topic, but I don't explain because I don't want to sound like I'm being politically correct because it legit is no filters, no fears. Like I don't have to be politically correct. I could be like, nah, I don't agree. But the fact is, I do agree. I see the value in what you are saying, absolutely, and what Cindy is saying, and what Krisha, am I pronouncing your name correct? Krisha? Okay. Krisha is saying, but my very nature and how I am is like fighting it, right? And where I am trying to learn that balance and adopt that so that I can protect myself and my heart and also be able to grow. I also, it goes against the very fiber of my being when I have created and built a dynamic to tell that person, yeah, you're every bad shit you thought you were. And like, poof, right? And I'm not saying that that's what y'all do because that's probably not what you do. If somebody has proven to just show you the face, then you're absolutely right to walk away. From my experience, it's been that they've shown the face, but then they show the possibility. And I am big on possibility, unfortunately, or fortunately, right? So but there is a difference. There's a difference between the desire to change and the action to change.
Mm-hmm. You want to read these couple of ones because we need to be heading out soon?
Oh, shit. Yeah. I didn't even see, y'all.
You want to read?
I made it through without crying. I'm proud.
Yay. No, because crying is fine, but still yay. Cindy says, OMG, LOL, sometimes there's room for repairing the relationship and growing together, but it can be a painful process that takes work and a lot of times I just don't have the energy. Right there with you.
Yeah, and there's people that are like that. I'm not that person. I feel like you can find that balance, but maybe ready. Maybe I'm that person that on the other side was like, oh, you don't have the energy to figure this out. I don't have the energy for you either. I'm not saying that to you, Cindy. I love you so much.
I love how we're the opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, I needed to happen at some point because we're always on the same.
The thing is that I put myself first now for the past like 10 years because I matter. I come first.
Right.
Sounds selfish, but at the end of the day, I'm with myself, my thoughts.
I don't disagree. I've learned that. But here's my but. Here's that but for me. I agree, and I'm learning to do that more and more because it's very clear that but here's the thing. This is something that I know about you. You feel that way, but you put the intention and the effort, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's matched. It's matched. You're not just like, I'm writing you off and I don't have the energy because the other person is just like, whatever. You are equally like, I'm gonna need a minute. I'm different. I'm already about to 1 foot out the door. I gotta take care of me. But you're cognizant of the other person and of who they've been to you up until the point that they're like, and then you're like, okay, bye, for real.
Right.
But for me, I come first, but the people around me, for me, and not everyone is like this, and I respect that. The people in my life are in my life because I've wanted them there.
Right.
And because they've added to that value. So and they've added to my betterment of me, the things that I've learned from them, through them, in experiences with them. So I yes, I look out for me, but
No,
it equally takes that conversation for me,
I mean,
because
I already have.
there's that intel, that clarity of like, so what you're saying is that it's no effort. Okay, then I'm good. And then all you need to forgive is yourself for leaving yourself in that situation
Right,
for longer than you need it to be. Right?
right.
Okay, I'm gonna go back and read Krisha. I agree to cutting off friends because most of the time friends don't care to change. It's already difficult to get a partner to change actions that hurt, let alone a friend who doesn't have a real motivation to do so. I feel you. Well, people can't change. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make a drink, kind of thing.
Right, basically.
And
It's very,
we all do this, where it's like your parents tell you something 50,000 times, and until your best friend tells you, it's not when you do it. Like, it's not when it clicks for you. But it's like you get information and you learn the lesson you need to learn when you learn it from whoever you learn it. But you learned it, right? You
you have
got
to
it.
recognize your patterns, man. Once you start recognizing your patterns, ahí es que the real change is gonna begin. Other than that, you're gonna keep repeating it until you learn a lesson.
Yeah.
So, Brian says you can't help someone who doesn't want to truly help themselves and make a change. Yep.
Yeah.
And then Cindy says team selfish. I mean, I can be selfish.
Uh
You
I'm
have to.
team balance. I'm team balance.
I'm team
Brain
me.
food. You, Cindy, I want you to know that you gave us one of our hashtags. Hashtag brain food is a no filters, no fears hashtag because of you.
Oh yes.
I love you so much. Thank you for your input. Um, Actually, it's because of like therapist Helen and Cindy and things like that, where I've learned the value of selfishness and that it's not a negative thing.
In a healthy way. Yeah.
Right. But I also, oh my God, really? I love it. Yeah. Yeah, it is totally a hashtag. Um, right. And because of so many people in my life that I see those healthy aspects. When it crosses a line into affecting other people just because you want to get your damn way,
Right. That's
right? That's a whole different kind of selfish,
right.
right? And I've seen those examples too. But it has fed me in a really good way to see, and you're like this, because again, I see the healthy selfish, right? And it's good for self-care and all of those things, but also in relationships. And we know how I feel about relationships. Y'all know what I mean. All relationships. Every relationship is a relationship. So, but at the same time, selflessness is something that I used to apologize about myself for. And I don't anymore. I'm proud of being selfless. And I forgive myself for every time I told myself that it was a, a bad trait.
Right.
What I don't forgive myself for just yet is allowing people to take advantage of that and not setting boundaries to it. Right? Because you can be selfless and be proud of that and still act on it and then switch on the selfish so that
Right.
people don't abuse it.
Right. Because it's selfish is to protect your energy. This is not a selfishness to, you know, be negative about it. This is my energy. This is me, and I'm protecting myself.
Yeah. And when you see healthy examples of being selfish, suck it up. Suck it up. Look at the mirror. It's a nice mirror because we're all really quick, and we've talked about this too. We're all really quick to judge the negative mirror we hold up to one another,
Right.
but not the good mirrors that we hold up for one another, right? And there's a lot of people in our life that we're like, I don't like you did this, but damn, there's value to even that. There's value to even those negative things.
Yeah, because we learn from them too.
Ooh,
Um.
go ahead.
uh,
And then we gotta
Relate.
go because We're gonna fall asleep with you guys.
Yeah, we gotta go. Brian says relationship based on interest level from both people. If someone is constantly needing forgiveness, I will question that person's interest in the relationship. When someone's interest is high, they hopefully aren't going to put themselves in a situation where they keep having to apologize. Exactly.
It's a choice.
It's
It's a
a
fucking choice.
choice. It is. It's a choice.
Love is a choice, and love takes work, whether it's a familial, friendship, romantic, whatever the case may be. Love is a choice. And if you choose not to, then you need to be upfront about that. I choose not to, but if you're
Communicate.
choosing to, don't put yourself in a situation. You know what it takes. You know what it takes to not hurt the person, and if you don't, you ask.
That's the thing that pisses me off. You've been through this, so you're gonna get in a new relationship or a new, you know what we mean, relationship in general, and then you're gonna repeat the same pattern, but you lived it, but now you're repeating it. Heal yourself first before getting in a relationship with anybody, because you're gonna repeat the same patterns, and that's all I have to say.
Or if you are like, if you're dealing, because there's some relationships you can't get out of, right? You can't get out of a familial relationship or whatever. If you're going to be in that situation, coño, paciencia, patience.
I distance myself.
Space is a thing. Space is a thing. But be patient, right? Because there's things that you may not be able to distance yourself from,
Right.
and or don't deny yourself wanting to be around that person or build that relationship with your father, your mother, your aunt, your uncle, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your whoever, right? You don't necessarily have to deny yourself that, but be cognizant and communicative that you're working on that and that you're gonna fuck up. And don't excuse yourself. Like, hold yourself accountable. I was an excuser to the nth degree. I still am sometimes. But we all go
You're not.
no, because you don't let me.
It's because you have so much potential to be. You're too good for the world, for the people. And algunas veces me dan ganas de like, come on, Vanessa, you know this, and you know this, pero your nature, your heart, it's like the opposite. So it's like that's where you're like, I need to.
And I say the same thing to me, but to be, but like, see, I'm the tree hugger. We're both tree huggers because we both love Mother Nature. But I'm the tree hugger, happy juju. Chubi's like, I'm gonna hug the tree. But the tree better not cross me.
Even though I'm literally hugging the tree. Yeah, no, and it wants to poke me. I'm like, ow, you came tree. Yeah.
Fuck your tree. I'm gonna go hug another tree. Everything is balance, and everything is a choice.
If you choose to love,
if you made the choice, whether it's intentional or not, to hurt someone, you have the power and the ability to make amends.
right.
And the other person, you have the power and ability to forgive for yourself and for that person. You know, it's difficult. Ain't nobody saying it's easy. It's not easy.
It's gonna take a while to forgive, but once you do, it's gonna feel fucking great. And that's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I didn't cry during the episode, but I might cry after.
Well, guys,
I might call my dad too. I might call my dad.
Well, we ain't even talking about my dad, but anyway.
But you know what? I like that thing that you said about the text, by the way. I like that you said it because I felt silly for doing things like that sometimes. But I love to know that other people do that. That when you receive random text messages of like, hey, I'm really sorry that this happened, whether it's 2 days after it happened, 3 years, 4 years after it happened, I do it for myself as my own betterment, but also because you learn to appreciate what the other person put up with or how it may have affected them, and that, you could have been better.
Right, because I sat on these things. Like, if you feel that thought, just do it. Go ahead and be like, yo, sorry, apologize.
And it happens at random moments. You get it at random moments because somebody probably did it to them and they're like, oh, this sucks.
Right.
I should have never done that to Chubi, or Chubi should have never done this to me.
Yeah, that's the way. Yep.
I'm usually the one asking for forgiveness. Brian, I'm that
Okay.
person you're talking about, but not in a bad way. Not in
Yeah,
like, not like I was like, I did something horrendous to someone. Like, maybe I was a little bit snippier or more in my field than I needed to be.
your final thoughts?
Final thoughts. Forgiveness is a journey. Don't be hard on yourself about it, but do it for you and just, yeah. I don't know. I don't know what to say without crying. Go ahead.
And just remember that yes, someone did hurt you, but remember they're not hurting you, and you are able to forgive them. And I know it's rough, but you could do it, and you're gonna feel great about it. That's all I have to say now.
Ooh,
Ooh, what?
because I go back to the shame and guilt thing because this is big for me because we know how I feel about shame.
Mm,
When you go out of your way, you don't have to forgive like tomorrow, but when you go out of your way to enforce shame versus guilt, that says more about you than the person who did the action that hurt you. Be hurt, be angry, be pissed, go through your shit. But
right.
don't do to that other person what they did to you. Don't do it.
No, I love
Don't do
it.
it. Because then you're gonna have double the work to do for yourself.
Have a good night, everyone.
Buenos nachos, guys.
Stay fearless, everyone.